Hi guys, it's Kristjan from the Depositary here. And one thing we get a few questions about is, where did the idea of the depository come from? Are we just another one of those prop tech products that is looking for a solution? Are we some entity that's come from outside of the industry? Are we some VC backed entity that's just looking to gobble up your data? And so what we wanted to do was trying to really tell you a little bit more about the journey that we went on creating the depository, and how we've got to where we are now. So for those of you that don't know, myself and my business partner, Anne and Deckers, who own the business together, we are and still remain letting agents ourselves. Anne and I met 22 years ago, working in an agency in London. And in 2004, we launched our own lettings agency, Base Property Specialist Limited. We're a small boutique letting agency operating out of a single office. Even after 20 years, we've got a small team and deliver a really high level of service. But one of the things that's been a huge part of our evolution as a business over the last 10 years or more has been looking at how we can streamline, digitize, and automate the operations within our company. Now, it goes without saying that that has typically happened by us going, oh, this is a problem. What's in the market? Great, there's a problem. And perfect examples of that are things like Fixflow for maintenance, or PayProp for tenancy transactions, or whatever. There are lots of products out there that we know really look at a very particular issue or challenge within the lettings operation process and look to make that process much better. Now, way back in 2016, one of the things that came out of kind of an all hands company meeting, which we would do annually and really kind of pick apart the business, and I don't think this will come as a surprise to many of you, is that our entire team unilaterally agreed that the worst part of our job was the tenancy conclusion process. And that was for several reasons. So first of all, they felt that there was quite a big shift in attitudes between tenants. We enjoy a good relationship with our tenants, or our residents, throughout their stay with us. But the moment that notice served process started and it all started moving towards deposit reconciliation, we found that there was often an unjustified expectancy that we were going to be somehow colluding with the landlord to basically steal lots of their deposit. And again, I don't think any of this will strike any of you as a surprise. I'm sure you guys have all had this. When we then looked at it as well, we looked at the building blocks of really what agents do throughout that process. And a lot of it is very, very low or zero value tasks. And a lot of it is quite low level work in terms of they are essential tasks. But there's not a lot of value that you as an agent bring to them. It is very simply a success or fail. You either do something or you don't. And so that went through coordinating a checkout, whether you do it yourself or you introduce your tenants to your clerk, making sure that happens, overseeing cleaning arrangements, educating your tenants on what they need to do to return a property, and helping them to understand not just what their rights are, but also very clearly their responsibilities under the terms of your tenancy agreement and the framework of government legislation around deposits. We also found a large part of that job was often updating tenants or answering queries about, what happens at this stage? What happens next? Why haven't I been contacted for 3 days? Why hasn't the landlord responded? Why didn't you tell me you've got a checkout report? When am I going to get my deposit back? When am I going to get my deposit back? And guess what? When am I going to get my deposit back? And so we looked at all of these elements, and what we understood was tech could actually play a really good role in this process. It could take away the low value elements of what agents do and allow agents to really focus on where they add their value. And primarily that is in the identifying of issues, the assigning of value for those dilapidations or deductions from a deposit, and the negotiation of that process. That is fundamentally where agents really provide their value in the process. Everything else around that is logistical and is literally just about getting tenancies from A to Z. So what we knew was, looking at that and looking at the tasks in hand, tech could do a really good job of that. And we then set about going out and looking in the marketplace what there was. And we very quickly established that there was nothing. At that time, we were starting to see the innovation of zero deposit products or NDOs, no deposit options, the likes of Zero, Flat Fare, et cetera. But they were really looking to do something very different. They weren't looking to overhaul the system. And even talking to some of the biggest CRMs in the marketplace, they had some minor functionality in it, but really, as far as they were concerned, they had much more exciting areas for them to invest in their dev, both in terms of them as a business, but also in terms of what their clients were really clamoring on the door for. So back in 2016, we made the decision that we were going to try and solve this problem. And that's what we set out doing. So with the kind of partner backing of TDS, which we got very early in the journey, and it was really exciting to have one of the 3 deposit schemes turn around and basically go, we love the idea. We support this. We support the creation of a smoother, easier, better communicated tenancy conclusion process, and we feel tech can play a big role in that. So knowing that TDS were willing to work with us through that process and streamline the final step of reconciliating funds, unprotecting deposits, and the dispute process, we set off on that journey. And so what we decided very early doors was that we didn't want this process to be misdirected by taking on investment too early in our journey and taking our focus away from the product. One thing we knew coming into this was that what was going to make this product work was building a really technically effective and efficient process. What we do understand very well as letting agents is that as a letting agency operation, how you choose to do things, your structure of operation, your processes, your ticks and balances, all of that forms a critical part of your identity as an agency. And it is part of those things that at valuations or with client reviews, those are often the things you use to pick out why you're particularly good at what you do, or to defend something, a fee, or, whatever it is. So again, we knew coming into this that we couldn't just come up with what we felt was our perfect end of tenancy process and go marching into agency doors and go, guys, we've figured it out. This is how every tenancy in the country is going to end from now on. Get on board. All you have to do is change everything to work like this, and we're good. So knowing that, we made the slightly scary decision to say, do you know what? We're not going to accept investment. We're not going to go out seeking investment. And in those early days where PropTech was really at its absolute height of hype, the approaches and offers we were getting before we'd even built or written a single line of code was ridiculous, quite frankly. But what it did for us was it kind of validated that, maybe we were onto something and we were going to start that journey. And so that's what we did. We spent 2 years, 2016 to 2018, building out that product to get it to a point where we felt that it was workable, usable. But we weren't yet ready to let that go into the open market. We knew there was a lot of refinement still to happen. There were lessons to learn. And so what we then did is we felt that had got to what we call an MVP standard, a minimum viable product. And at that point, we started using the platform within our agency base in 2018. And what we learned over the next 2 years was incredibly valuable in understanding how people engage with the platform, how can we make it really clear. There were certain challenges we looked at, because whilst we started thinking, great, this is something other agents can use, with that realization, and also with our own client base, we knew that we had a platform where we could train agents to use the platform. But when it comes to landlords and tenants, we don't get that luxury. We're not going to get to sit a landlord down for half an hour and teach them how to end a tenancy before they go through the process. Why would they want to? That's probably more time than they spent on a tenancy beforehand. So what we needed to build was a really intuitive platform, so that when a landlord or a tenant gets that email saying, hey, you need to do this now, they could click on a button, land in our platform, and it would be absolutely clear what they needed to do in order to complete that next step. And so we spent 2018 to 2020, much longer than we thought. I think we originally thought it was going to be about 6 months, but we spent 2 years refining that product to a point where we at last felt genuinely happy, confident, and ready to launch our product into the market. And that is what we did. We launched in 2020. What we didn't know at the time was we launched it 7 days before lockdown was announced. And that was where our journey started. Thankfully, in that first week, we did sign 2 agents on board, and they have been on the journey with us ever since, as we've had other agents join us along the way. And what we're constantly doing is, you've probably noticed you don't see a lot of advertising from us. You probably feel like you can't get away from me on social media sometimes. But what you probably have noticed is that we don't do a lot of exhibition stands at events. You won't see adverts across all the industry media publications and media channels. And very simply, that's because that stuff is really expensive. And primarily, our attitude at the moment is, in most instances, we will look at that and go, well, I could spend $5,000 on a stand at an event and all the associated marketing activity, or for that £5,000, we could deliver 1, 2, 3, 4 features or tweaks that our agents have raised of things that they would like to see within the platform. And we would rather build you guys a better, smoother, more aligned product than shout about what a great company we are and how we're going places. So we've now been on that journey since 2020. We have rolled out hundreds of iterations, including new features, functionality, and integrations. We know that the integrated ecosystem of our platform is a huge part of delivering the success and the results that we want to for our agents. But it's a complex landscape. So we're plugging into deposit schemes, we're plugging into utility suppliers, we're plugging into inventory reports, and CRMs. And so that is a huge array of partners. But we know that doing that and building quality integrations, it's ultimately going to deliver you guys what you want, which is everything in one place, everything talking to one another, not having to constantly hop between 3, 4, 5, 6 different dashboards to facilitate a process. We want to get you away from too many emails. We want to free you up so you can just get on the phone and add your expertise and your value when you need it. And so that's where we find ourselves at today. We are now on an exciting journey going forward. We have an array of agents of all shapes and sizes, from early stage startups all the way through small and medium sized operations with multiple branches handling hundreds or even a few thousand tenancies, all the way up to the top end of the corporate spectrum, where we're working with the likes of Leaders Romans Group, who manage well in excess of 70,000 tenancies. But what we love is the fact that our platform delivers for all of those. And I think that comes from the fact that we still look at this platform from a lettings agent's perspective. When we have our weekly dev meetings with our team, they will be proposing things which they think are logical within the world of dev, and tech and general business. But what we know looking at that is that in that particular instance, I'm sorry, but that's just not how letting agents work. Letting agents need to do X, Y, Z. They need to go through this step. They need that person's approval to do this. They can't do that without that. They must do that. And we feel that is kind of our superpower, really. We've been and done everything you guys have done on a daily basis. We have done those painstaking tenancies from start to finish. We've had those tenants who think they're not liable for a penny. We've had those landlords who think they're owed the world for small things. And yeah, we understand those challenges. We understand the fact that the identity of your business is wrapped up in how you do things. And that is why we have a huge array of settings and configurations in the back end of our platform. We recently did some calculations, and there are well in excess of 1 million different configurations of our platform, depending on what you choose to configure, what integrations you plug in, what settings you do. But again, we feel like every agent is ever so slightly different. To the public, we might all look the same. We might all wear the same brand. We might all do the same job. But the reality is we all know that we do it in our own way, and often because we believe that is the best way to deliver value to our clients and to deliver an effective service. So we've built in line with that. And, we're really excited to see more and more agents joining us each day. Now, if you want to find out more about the Depositary, I've obviously been chatting away to you guys with our website in the background. You will find a heap of information in here, including some of the agents that work with us, an array of quotes and feedback, information about us. You can easily book a demo in with us direct from here. Do come on and check out our fan page. What you will find on here, shock horror, is a lot of agents saying what they love about it. Now, right at the top, enjoying his Lilo here, is Ian Crampton from Ferndown Estates, who I mentioned earlier. Now, Ferndown were our very first agent to sign on board. They signed on, like I said, in the 1 week we had before COVID was announced. And Ian has told me multiple times that adopting us going into that saved their lives of managing tenancies throughout the restricted COVID period when none of us could be in offices. Now, if you scroll down here, you will see agents and personalities that whether it's the brand or the people, but these are all videos. Go on, don't take my word for it. Go and see what these guys have to say about it. You will also find an array of comments and written quotations of agents, big and small, up and down the country, who've given feedback on what they love. You will find information about our various integrations and partners here. If you want to know a little bit more about the background of me and Anne and the framework that sits behind the business that we're building, go and find out more. You've got our blog. Now, importantly, another thing that was really important for us coming into this was that we had a very transparent structure about our pricing. I don't think I know I'm far from the only agent who will get approached about a product, particularly something that sounds really exciting. But then when you want to understand the commercials before dedicating too much time, that kind of gets that, oh no, we'll get to that later. Let us show you what the value does. We wanted to make sure that we didn't do that. So our pricing is incredibly transparent. You can find everything about our pricing structure on our platform. But we also look to address certain things which I personally, as a lettings director, always frustrated me about working with certain suppliers. So, and this is no comment on them. Ultimately, we all run our businesses the way we want to. But I know when I would talk with suppliers, if I was asked looking to be signed up to a 12 plus month agreement, making quite a substantial commitment in money, it would always sit funny with me that would come with like a setup or onboarding fee. I personally never really understood why we should be paying a business a fee for the privilege of paying them a business for their service. So you will never see us charge onboarding fees. We have a totally transparent licensing model. So basically, our platform, you will need to have a license for every 300 managed tenancies, and we only price it based on your managed portfolio. So if you manage 280 tenancies, you will only need one license. If you manage 410, you would need two, but equally 550 would still need two, but 700 would need three. So per 300 or part thereof, you will need to have a license, and those license fees are clearly displayed on our platform. Now, in addition to that, we got rid of a lot of the caveats. So quite often with software, there will be a cap about the amount of users you can have on a platform. We've absolutely not done that. Partly because we know what a lot of people do to work around that is they just share user profiles, which A, for GDPR is a big no-no, but also it creates muddy data within the platform that you can't reliably track and see. So you will find no user caps on our platform. There is free training for life. There is free support for life. We are constantly releasing updates on the platform, tweaks, improvements, new features, new functioning, new partnerships, and those are regularly getting dropped with absolutely no change to your subscription. We do not have gold, silver, or bronze packages. So we don't look to kind of break up the functionality within our platform and you pick and choose what you get. We give you everything. And what you make use of that is up to you. And we're here to help you identify the bits that you can tweak and improve and make your operation ever so slightly better. And we now, as I've highlighted before, we've got a growing network of suppliers. We are, I believe at the time of recording this, I think we have 13 partner integrations live and active. We have 4 partner integrations in the pipeline, 2 of those which should be launching literally within the next week or so, and 2 more launching early next year, and that will continue at pace. Again, we know that creating and delivering an integrated network of supplier partners, CRMs, and everything ultimately gives you guys what you want, which is removing duplicated data entry, removing the need to bounce around from dashboard to dashboard, and just generally making the process a lot smoother. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a better idea about where we came up, how the idea of the depository started, how we got that from an idea to launching, and what we've done over the last 4 years of growing that from a launch stage to where we are now. Now, we remain on a mission. There are several core objectives that we really want to achieve within the industry, and we're only going to achieve that with the support of agents, big and small, from up and down the country. And we hope you can hopefully now get a better understanding of where we're going and will join us on that journey. So we are trying to establish a digital standard for tenancy conclusions for the whole of the UK. Now, we currently operate in England and Wales. In the future, we will be rolling out in Northern Ireland and Scotland. But by creating a digital standard, we are making the process easier. So not only do we streamline the process already, but having now been live for 4 years, we are now seeing tenants starting to come back into the system. We are seeing an improved engagement, a faster process second time around. We're even getting emails sometimes from tenants saying, "Oh, I've used your platform before. It's really nice that I can now do this, or it now does that, or I don't have to do this." So it's nice to see that we're sticking in tenants' minds. But we see this as a benefit to everyone. The more familiar people get with our platform, the easier tenancy conclusions will become for everyone. So once a tenant has been through our platform 2, 3, 4 times, it doesn't matter what agents they are in what part of the country, when they're presented with the platform, even though it's got your logo on it and the process might be slightly different, they're going to be super familiar with it. Gone are the questions, gone are the attrition, gone are the queries about this, that, and the other. It just becomes an acceptable standard that happens quickly. And off the back of doing that, we are on a mission to try and achieve 2 core objectives, and it remains to be seen when and if we can achieve these. Firstly is the time it takes to refund a deposit. Now, currently the national average within the cash tenancy deposit schemes is 21 days from checkout to refund. As we all know, the government intended that to be about half that period of time. Our agents currently average between 12 and 14 days. So we've already reduced that figure by around a third or more. But we are on an absolute mission to try and get that average to 10 days or less. We want to help our industry get in line with what were probably overly optimistic government expectations back in 2017. Sorry, not 2017, 2007, when the deposit legislation came in. But by more and more of you joining us and us creating this as a standardized process that all tenants go through, it becomes easier for everyone. And so, yes, so we want to aim for a 10-day deposit return average. And then what we are also focusing on for you guys as agents is we are looking at the data around proposed deductions versus agreed deductions. Now, this is something that there was no insight before because no one was tracking that information. The deposit schemes have no insight into what you originally proposed a tenant would pay versus what they finally paid. We know as agents ourselves that something of great value to you is being able to convey very clear and tangible value to your landlord clients about what you deliver. And being able to show your landlords with real fact-based evidence that you not only deliver a really robust and tight tenancy deposit return process that not only does that in record-breaking time, but actually that you achieve 75, 80, 85, 90, 95% of proposed deductions. It underpins how good you are at your job, how robust your processes are. So we track that data. We look at proposed versus final agreed. And what we see is that the top performers in our community of agents are achieving that 90+%. And they are now already taking that statistical data out of the reports that we generate. And if you haven't seen those, check out our video on our granular reporting information that we have. But we've now got agents looking to really take that reported data. They're embedding that within their market reports and their feedback to their landlords. And they are sitting in front of prospective landlords and particularly larger portfolio landlords going, yeah, not only do we return deposits in 12 days rather than 21, but we can show you that as a company, we get you over 90% of the proposed deductions every single time. And here's the data to back that up. And what a powerful message that is. And in an age of wanting to attract the best tenants, we've also got agents going out there saying, remember how much you were tearing your hair out with the last agent when you were still chasing your deposit a month later? Well, guess what? Come and rent with us and you should get your deposit back within 10 days of moving out. What a powerful message to attract the very best tenants to your agency and to your landlord's properties. So I hope that wasn't too long and too waffly. I hope that's given you a much greater understanding about where Anne and I started on the journey. Obviously, Carla has now been with us for 5 years and has been a huge part of building out that process. Carla joined us with 8 years of CRM experience within agency and specifically within lettings. So we've got a highly informed and knowledgeable team. And then we're constantly, like I said, working with dev teams across the space to create a really good integrated system that just delivers the best possible results for all. So yeah, I hope you understand a little bit more about where we came from, what the idea of the depository was, where we've got to and where we're hoping to go. And we really hope that you'll reach out, click that demo button, come and let us show you what we can really do and join us on this journey, because we do think it's really in everyone's benefit that we get to where we're going. And it's just going to make everyone's lives a lot happier. And if you go back and check out the fan page or even hop to Kerfuffle, go over to Kerfuffle, look us up on there. I think there's nearly 50 reviews on there, and a lot of it from front-end users, and just see the feedback we get. I mean, some of the best things that we see is staff going. We've had people say that, for the first time in 10 years as a property manager, they feel completely on top of their checkouts. That they come into the office now, particularly in the summer months, not dreading having to talk to 5, 10, 15, 30 tenants baying for blood about where their deposit is and how unreasonable the landlord's being and how can you claim this and how can you say that, when do I get it back? With all of that gone, they can just focus on the elements of their job where they're good, where they deliver value, where they're happy and they enjoy. And guess what? Happier staff leads to a happier office, leads to a better business. So that's it. So the Depositary, we make things easier, faster, better. Hopefully you come and join us on our journey. Thanks for listening. Cheerio.